If you have seen this video, good day and hi!
I'm Ash.
I'm Kathleen.
I'm Sam.
And I am Debbie. We are the group Faith and the voices behind today's lecture. We will be discussing about the parable of the two builders. To start today's video, here are the contents of today's parable. For the introduction, the parable of the two builders can actually be found in Matthew chapter 7 verses 24 to 29. Jesus, during his journey here on earth, has told people many parables to help us understand how he wants us to live. These parables reflect stories of everyday life and were used by Jesus to attract listeners and audiences. These parable stories from Jesus teaches us moral and spiritual lessons that we can apply in our life. The parable of the two builders is also known as the parable of the wise and foolish builders.
Background of the parable. Jesus opened his Sermon on the Mount, where he taught people of the Beatitudes. He also described the character of God's kingdom. This is found in Matthew 5 to 7. He concluded his sermon with a parable about the two builders, where he illustrated the benefit of obeying his words and doing it, rather than just hearing them. Before Jesus started sharing the parable to the people, he said, "Not everyone who says to me, 'Lord, Lord,' will enter the kingdom of heaven, but only the one who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. Many will say to me on that day, 'Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name, and in your name drive out demons, and in your name perform many miracles?' Then I will tell them plainly, 'I never knew you. Away from me, you evildoers.' Therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on the rock." This is from Matthew chapter 7, verse 21 to 24.
There were two men who each decided to build a house. The two men went out looking for the perfect place to build a house. The first man was very wise. He thought carefully about the kind of house he wanted to build. He wanted a house that is strong, so even when the wind or heavy rains would come, it wouldn't break or be washed up in the storm. The wise man knew in order to build a strong and sturdy house, the foundation has to be strong and sturdy first. He found a huge flat rock, a perfect foundation for the house. The wise man dug around and chipped the rock until it was the perfect size for his house. After he was finished, he lived in the house. Many times, storms came. The winds blew and heavy rains had passed, but the wise man sat comfortably in his house. He did not worry about the storms because he had built his house on a rock. The foolish man, on the other hand, did not think carefully about how building a house on a strong and sturdy foundation would go a long way. He found a nice flat surface of sand and started building his house. The foundation kept slipping and sliding in the sand, but the foolish man did not care. He just wanted to build his house. Once he finished, he moved in immediately. When the storm came, strong winds blew and heavy rains came down. The foolish man's house fell apart just because it didn't have a strong foundation.
For the symbolism and meanings that can be found in the parable, the wise man. The wise man in the story symbolizes a person who strives to do the right thing, a person of wisdom and one who trusts the process. In today's time, these are people who are dedicated, hardworking, and patient.
The foolish man. The foolish man in the story symbolizes a person who lacks good judgment and always chooses to rush things. A person that is impatient and hungry for immediate results, would rather go the easy way than the hard way.
The flood. The flood that destroyed the foolish man's house in the story symbolizes one's problems and challenges in life. It serves as a threat in life that comes to test our being in an attempt to destroy our spiritual foundation.
The foundation of the rock. The rock foundation represents true understanding and right action. true conviction and commitment manifested in righteousness. The foundation of the sand. The sandy foundation represents empty preference and mere external religion based on false knowledge. The sand reflects the shifting, uncertain feelings some foolish people possess.
For the significance of the parable, Jesus explained how the wise builder built his house on the rock. It signifies the importance of building one's life on obedience to the teachings and examples of the Lord. Second, it is also an obvious reference that Jesus is the rock in the Christian religion. Jesus is firm and sturdy, which makes him a strong foundation for Christianity, making him the rock.
So my reflection for the parable would be invest oneself through a long, hard, and smart process rather than going through an easy, rushed outcome. It seems like it's a very long way, but we should not place ourselves into an easy solution. Better things come from a hard process, like a bow and an arrow. You can't simply just fire an arrow without aiming it to a certain target. You have to be patient. Aim, pull back, and release. The outcome relies on how much patience you put on aiming that arrow to your target and how much force you exerted to pull that arrow back. Just like God's process, sometimes the pullback is hard and you think that you may never reach your target, but you have to trust and be patient because God is aiming you for the betterment, not only for yourselves, but also for the people around you.
For me, this parable sums up how we prepare in living the reality of life. A lot of people had it in the easy route early in their lives, and I think the danger in this is if they grow up living in a safety bubble, for when it pops, it will be overwhelming. This also has to do with us building our careers. Great things don't happen overnight. It's gotta have a great foundation of passion, commitment, and sacrifice in order for it to flourish.
We all have different beliefs. In the story, they have different mindsets but want to reach the same goal. There are those who want the easy way. But we should know by now, if you got it easy, then it could easily be taken away from you as well. Every action we make has its consequences. We may be in denial if things go south. You can hide it, but not for long. Time will come and teach us a lesson if we have been doing something wrong. The lesson I learned in this parable is if you know you're in the wrong, start over. Don't wait for the flood to knock you down before you realize that you possess the attitude of a foolish builder.
It may not make sense right now, but for my personal reflection, I realized that sometimes we try to live life to the fullest. However, if we think about it, to what extent? To what extent can we say that we are truly living our life to the fullest? With that question in mind, after reading the parable of the two builders, it gave me two options of what I want to be in life. First, to become a wise builder, someone who does the right thing in everything and who always go the long way to achieve something. Or second, to become a foolish builder that rushed things by doing it his way, without concrete plans of action or preparation for consequences that may happen along the way. As someone who is a big fan of anything spontaneous and immediately acting on impulse and living my own version of living life to the fullest, this parable actually made me reflect my actions in life. And I realized that sometimes, because of too much enjoyment and being present in the moment, I fail to assess if some things that I am doing are still right or wrong. So, if you ask me again, to what extent can we say that we are truly living our life to the fullest? It is when what we are doing is still in line to what God wants us to do. This parable serves as a reminder that we can still live life to the fullest, even if we live it according to what He wants us to live it. And starting today, I choose to be a wise builder, someone who trusts the process and has faith in what He has in store for me and in my future.